I knew something was wrong the moment my son, Jordan, stepped through my front door with that hesitant smile he only wears when he's worried about me. It was Mother's Day, and I'd set out the little lemon cake I'd saved for the occasion, half because it was his favorite, half because it was all I could afford. But before he even hugged me, he looked around as if searching for something that wasn't there. "Mom, are you really doing okay?" he asked quietly, his voice dipping with concern. I opened my mouth to give my usual answer. "Of course, baby." But before I could speak, he added, "Are you happy with the money Clara funds you every month?" My heart stalled. The air thickened, hot and sharp in my chest. Clara, his wife, the woman who'd made it clear from the first day she met me that she wanted no reminders of where Jordan came from. The same woman who emailed instead of calling, texted instead of visiting, and smiled at me only when Jordan was watching. I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay calm, gentle, small. "Jordan," I said, "the church is keeping me alive these days." His whole face changed. Confusion first, then worry, then something I had tried so hard to never let him feel around me. Fear. "What do you mean, the church?" he whispered. Before I could answer, her heels clicked across my floor. Clara swept in like she owned my home. Tall, honey-toned, dressed in white silk like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread instead of my neighborhood. Her diamond earrings sparkled even in the dim light of my living room. She carried a designer purse worth more than my rent, and she looked at me the way one might look at a stain on a window. Something obstructive, bothersome, inconvenient. She didn't greet me. She didn't say Happy Mother's Day. She didn't even fake a smile. "Jordan?" she said, sharply. "We really need to go. We're late." He didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on me, wide, almost pleading. "Mom, are you really doing okay?" he asked again, his voice cracking just slightly. Clara's jaw tightened. "We don't have time for—" "Jordan," he snapped, louder than I had ever heard him say. "Give us a minute." The silence that followed was thunderous. She froze, the way a person does when they hear something they are not used to hearing. Her perfect smile cracked at the edges. Her hands clutched her purse until the leather creaked. I felt the room shift. I felt something old, something painful, something I buried deep start clawing its way up my throat. I had spent months lying to my own son, smiling through empty refrigerators, whispering prayers over overdue medical bills, and crying softly in the pews when Pastor Helen slipped me grocery gift cards from the Lord because she knew. She always knew. I had let Clara manage things because she insisted she knew how to handle finances properly. She told me it was better if Jordan focused on his companies, his investors, his world of impossible wealth. She said she would send what I needed every month, but nothing ever came. Not a dollar, not a text, not even a phone call asking how I was. I stared at my son, this man I had raised with my bare hands and sleepless nights, this boy who once promised he'd buy me a big house by the lake one day, and I felt shame burn down my spine because I had kept him in the dark for months, maybe years. "Mom," he whispered again, "please, tell me what's going on." A part of me wanted to lie again, to protect him, to protect his marriage, to protect his peace. But when Clara took one step closer, one sharp, impatient step, I felt something inside me snap into. "I haven't received anything from you. Not a check, not a deposit, not even a phone call asking how I am." Jordan's face went pale. His mouth opened slightly. A soft, strangled sound left him, like a man realizing he's been betrayed by the very person sleeping beside him. Clara stepped between us, plastering on a thin smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Jordan, your mother is mistaken. I've handled everything. She probably doesn't understand the—" "Clara?" I cut in, my voice steady. "I understand empty cabinets. I understand cold nights when the heat gets cut off, and I understand having to choose between medication and groceries. I'm not confused about any of that." Jordan covered his mouth. His shoulders shook. Clara's face hardened so quickly, it was like watching a mask fall off. "You promised me," she hissed under her breath. "That you wouldn't—" Jordan snapped his head toward her. "Promised you what?" Her eyes widened. That was the moment I knew. There were secrets in my house, dark ones I hadn't even imagined, and they were about to pour out because Jordan turned toward me, tears filling his eyes, and asked the one question that made my stomach drop to the floor. "Mom, how long have you been living like this?" Before I could answer, Clara reached into her purse fast and pulled out a stack of papers that made Jordan stumble back like he'd been struck. He whispered one word, barely audible. "Mom, why do these have your signature?" I froze. I had never seen those papers in my life. And the signature? It wasn't mine. My heart slammed against my ribs. Clara's smirk told me everything. This wasn't neglect. This was something much, much worse. And Jordan was only now realizing the woman he married had been lying to him and stealing from me for a very long time. Jordan stared down at the stack of papers like they were radioactive. His hands trembled. My confident, brilliant, millionaire son suddenly looked like a terrified little boy again, the same way he did when he broke his arm in the 8th grade and tried to hide it from me because he didn't want me to worry. His chest rose and fell too fast, his breathing jagged, and for a moment I thought he might collapse right there on my living room carpet. "Mom," he whispered, lifting one page with shaking fingers. This is authorization for a caregiver account. It says I agreed to send $5,000 a month to you on the 1st of every month. It's have you signed to acknowledge receiving it." My throat closed. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even blink because the signature, crooked, uneven, too messy to mimic mine perfectly, was a cheap, ugly imitation of my handwriting. My real signature curved easily. This one looked like someone had practiced it in the dark. But my son, my poor child, he thought I had signed these papers. He thought I had known. He thought I had been receiving his money all along. "Jordan, I swear to you, I have never seen that paper before today," I said, each word trembling out of me. "I would never sign anything like that. Ever." He looked up at me slowly, eyes glassy. "If you didn't sign it, then who?" We both turned toward Clara at the exact same time. She didn't even flinch. Her whole posture shifted, her spine straightened, her chin lifted, her eyes sharpened. It was like watching a villain reveal herself in the 3rd act of a movie. She had been pretending for so long, keeping her voice sweet, her smile harmless, her lies wrapped in silk. But with the truth cornering her, she dropped the act. "Jordan," she said calmly, almost coldly, "don't be dramatic. Your mother probably forgot she signed these. She's been overwhelmed, and older people misplace things, especially—" "Stop." His voice cracked across the room like a whip. "Stop talking about her like that." Something flickered through her eyes. Annoyance, not guilt. "Jordan, your mother exaggerates. She's always been emotional, and you know that. You think she'd admit she misplaced money or lost paperwork? She taught school for 30 years. She acts like she's incapable of making mistakes, but she—" "Clara," his voice dropped, low and dangerous. "Tell me the truth." She looked right at him, then right at me, and sighed dramatically like we were inconveniencing her. "Fine," she said. "If you want the truth so badly, yes, I handled the money. Yes, I signed for her. Yes, I kept the bank account confidential, but it was for our protection. For your protection, Jordan. You work nonstop. Your image matters. If the press ever found out your family was struggling, how would that look?" My heart broke clean down the middle. She wasn't even ashamed. Jordan stared at her like she'd grown horns. "You forged my mother's signature," he said slowly, emphasizing every syllable. "You stole the money meant for her. You lied to me about sending it. His voice caught. "You let my mother live like this? Without heat? Without medication? Without groceries?" Clara rolled her eyes. "Actually, Jordan, you give too much away emotionally. I was protecting your brand. You're a public figure now, a tech CEO. Investors don't want to see you financially supporting family members who— "Family members who what?" I snapped before I could stop myself. "Who raised him? Who worked 3 jobs to get him through college? Who skipped meals so he could eat? Who wore the same shoes for 6 years so he wouldn't feel poor at school?" Clara turned her head toward me slowly, deliberately. "Who are now dependent, which looks weak for someone in Jordan's position." Jordan's voice broke. "Dependent? Dependent? My mother spent her life carrying me when she had nothing but love, and you call that dependent? Clara's eyes hardened. Jordan, I'm your wife. I have to protect what we've built. What you built? He barked back at her. What you built? On lies? On theft? On burying my mother alive while you walked around with designer purses worth more than her rent? My son's voice shook with a rage I had never heard from him. He looked at the papers again. 34 pages of fraudulent signatures, fake authorizations, false correspondence. Jordan, Clara, how long? She said nothing. How long have you been stealing from her? Her jaw clenched. Since before we got married, Jordan. Your mother was always going to be a problem. He staggered back like she'd shoved him. I felt the world tilt. The floor swayed. The air disappeared. This woman, this polished, well-educated woman, had seen me as a problem since the day she met me. A stain, an inconvenience. Jordan's voice dropped to a whisper I could barely hear. Did my mother ever receive a single dollar I sent? Silence. Then, in a dismissive, almost bored tone, Clara said, "No." Jordan broke. He folded into himself, sinking onto my couch, burying his hands in his hair. A small, wounded sound escaped him. I sat beside him, touching his shoulder gently, feeling him tremble. I had never seen him look powerless, not even as a child. And Clara, she just stood there, arms crossed, unimpressed. Finally, Jordan lifted his head and looked at her with eyes full of fire. "You're leaving," he said. Her eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? You heard me," he said. "Get out of my mother's house. And when we get home, we're going to talk about a separation." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Jordan, be serious." But he wasn't smiling. Out. Now. She grabbed her purse, fury twisting her face. "You'll regret this." "I already do," he said. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Jordan turned to me, tears streaming. "Mom, what else did she do to you?" I hesitated, because the worst part hadn't even been said yet, and telling him might destroy him completely. Jordan sat there for a long moment, wiping his face with shaking hands. The anger, the disbelief, the heartbreak, he was drowning in all of it at once. I could see it in the tightness of his jaw, the tremble in his shoulders, the way he kept looking at the door like Clara might come storming back in. For years, I had watched him build himself up into a powerhouse, confident, sharp, respected by people twice his age. But right now, he looked shattered, like his entire world had been built on lies he never asked for. "Mom," he whispered finally, "tell me everything she did. All of it, please." I swallowed hard. My tongue felt heavy. My heart felt too swollen to beat. Because he didn't know. He didn't know even half of it. "Jordan," I said softly, "you've had enough for today. Let's talk tomorrow. You need to breathe, my boy. You need to steady yourself." He shook his head violently. "No, I need to know what she put you through. I need to know what I didn't see." His voice cracked. "I need to know how blind I've been." So I took a breath and told him the first piece of truth. "She blocked your calls." Jordan froze. "She did what?" "She blocked your number on my phone. She said it was better for you if I didn't disturb you while you were building your company. She said you needed peace, focus. So whenever I tried to call, nothing went through." Jordan blinked. Stunned. "Mom, I called you for holidays, birthdays, random afternoons. I called so much, and I never got a single one. Not one." He ran his fingers through his hair again, breathing hard. His voice was raw. "She told me you refused to answer, that you were mad at me, that you needed space. I never asked for space from you," I said, my voice breaking. "Never," he swallowed, eyes filling again. "What else?" I hesitated, because the next part hurt too much. "Jordan, she changed my doctor." His head snapped toward me. "Changed your what?" "My primary doctor, the one who knew my history, the one who treated me for years. She said he was inefficient and signed me up for a cheaper clinic 40 minutes away." My throat tightened. "She said it was to streamline my paperwork, but the clinic barely checked anything. I ran out of medication 3 times last year because they lost my refill requests." Jordan stared at me like I had just told him the world was ending. "Mom," he whispered, "you could have gotten seriously sick." "I did," I admitted. His breath hitched. "When?" he demanded. Why didn't you tell me? Clara said not to worry you. She said it would distract you from work. She said if she thought I was fragile, it would hurt your stress levels. And she took my phone one day while I was sleeping and deleted all my messages to you. Jordan looked like he might throw up. She put you in danger, he choked. She literally endangered your health. I nodded weakly, blinking back tears. And there's one more thing. His entire body tensed. Tell me. I looked down at my worn carpet, at the tiny tear near the edge that I had tried to stitch myself. I had been hiding this shame for months. Jordan, 3 times. Not once, not twice, 3 separate months. I didn't have heat. Jordan went perfectly still. What? He whispered. It was the kind of whisper that sounded like a scream trying to claw its way out. I didn't have heat, I repeated. The bill bounced because the church stipend wasn't enough. The power company shut it off in December. I slept under coats. Pastor Miller brought me food. He didn't tell anyone else. He didn't want to embarrass me. Jordan's face went blank, emotionless, terrifyingly emotionless. And Clara knew? He asked quietly. I nodded. Yes. Jordan's voice was a whisper, a dangerous, trembling whisper. How long has my mother been living without the support I thought she had? I closed my eyes. A little over 3 years. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jordan stood up so suddenly, the couch creaked, his hands balled into fists. His shoulders rose and fell with sharp, furious breaths. He looked like a storm trying to stay inside a human body. I'm going to destroy her for this, he said under his breath. I'm going to make sure she never gets to hurt anyone again. Mom, I swear to you on my life, she won't get away with this. I reached for his arm, trying to calm him, but he pulled me into a hug instead, a tight, shaking, desperate hug. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so damn sorry I didn't see it. I held on to him, because for the first time in years, I had my son back. But neither of us knew Clara wasn't done, not yet. Jordan stayed with me the entire afternoon, pacing, muttering under his breath, stopping only to ask another question that cut deeper than he realized. Each time he pieced together another lie Clara had told him, his face tightened a little more. It was like watching a man discover the cracks in the life he'd been living and realizing they weren't cracks at all, but deliberate wounds. By early evening, he insisted on taking me out to dinner. He didn't ask, didn't suggest. He simply said, Mom, get your coat. We're going somewhere with heat and real food. And I was too emotionally drained to argue. The truth had poured out of me like water from a broken pipe. My nerves felt raw. My heart felt scraped clean. The restaurant he took me to wasn't one of his usual upscale places. It was a little soul food spot, tucked between a laundromat and an old record store. My favorite place from when he was a teenager. The moment we walked in, the warm smell of collard greens and cornbreads felt like a hug. I hadn't eaten there in years. Sit, Jordan said, pulling out my chair like I was royalty. Tonight, you're not worrying about anything. I smiled weakly. You don't have to fuss over me, baby. Yes, he said firmly. I do. We ordered and sat quietly for a moment. My hands felt cold, even though the room was warm. I kept glancing at him, wondering how much more his heart could hold. Finally, he said it. Mom, I'm filing for separation. I blinked. The sentence didn't make sense at first. Jordan, that's serious. So is what she did to you. And the money part, I'll get to that. But blocking my calls, cutting you off from your doctor, letting you go without heat? His voice broke. I can't stay married to someone who treats you like that, who treat anyone like that. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. My stomach tightened. Hello? A woman's voice answered, trembling. Is this Mrs. Green? Yes, who is this? My name is Kendra. I work at the pharmacy you used last year. I'm calling because, well, someone came in earlier today asking questions about your prescriptions. Jordan sat up straight. Put it on speaker. I did. Kendra continued. She said she was your daughter-in-law and needed access to your medication history. She was upset. She asked if anyone had reported anything unusual.
I told her we couldn't share details without your permission. She got angry and left. Jordan's jaw set in stone. That was Clara. My chest tightened. Why would she go there now? I'm so sorry, I just thought you should know. Before I could respond, she hung up abruptly, as if she was scared to stay on the line. Jordan stared at me, breathing hard through his nose. She's trying to get ahead of the truth. She knows she's been exposed. I don't want you dragged into a war, I whispered. He looked at me with a kind of hurt I'd never seen in him. Mom, I've been in a war. I just didn't know whose side I was fighting for. I reached across the table and took his hand. We'll get through this together. But even as I said it, something in me trembled because I knew Clara. Sweet on the outside, venomous underneath. Everything she did was calculated. We finished dinner, but my appetite was gone. Jordan walked me to the car, insisting on driving me home. The moment we pulled into my street, I saw something that made my heart thump painfully. A black SUV parked right in front of my house. Jordan squinted. Is that hers? No, I whispered. That's not Clara's car. The SUV door opened slowly. A tall man stepped out. Clean cut, in a suit, professional, cold eyes. Jordan stepped in front of me instinctively. Can we help you? He called out. The man pulled out a small leather badge holder and flipped it open. Mrs. Green? He asked. My heart dropped. Yes? I whispered. I'm here on behalf of your daughter-in-law. Ma'am, she's filing an emergency petition to take control of your medical decisions. Jordan's face drained of color. What? He snapped. On what grounds? The man adjusted his tie, looking unfazed. She claims you're mentally unfit to communicate your own needs. My knees buckled. Mentally unfit? Jordan grabbed my arm as the man continued, coldly professional. She's trying to declare you incompetent. The world spun, and I could barely breathe as I realized Clara wasn't just fighting to keep her secrets. She was trying to erase my voice entirely.
My breath stuttered out of me as the man's words echoed between us. Mentally unfit. It felt like the world tilted sideways, and for a moment I couldn't tell if I was standing, falling, or floating. Jordan tightened his grip on my arm, steadying me as my knees weakened. Repeat that, Jordan demanded, his voice low and shaking. Say it again, so I know I didn't imagine it. The man didn't flinch. He'd probably delivered cruel news 1,000 times and learned to hear nothing human behind it. Mrs. Clara Thompson filed an emergency petition claiming Mrs. Green is unable to make sound medical decisions. She lists concerning behaviors, erratic emotional patterns, memory lapses. What memory lapses? I snapped, the strength in my voice surprising even me. I remember every cruel thing she's done. Jordan stepped forward like he was ready to swing. You're telling me this woman, this manipulative, lying, money-driven woman, wants to take control of my mother's life because she was exposed? I'm not here to judge. The man replied coldly. I'm only informing Mrs. Green that she'll be served with paperwork tomorrow morning. My heart hammered against my ribs. Tomorrow. She was moving fast, too fast. Jordan took a breath, then pointed a sharp finger toward the SUV. Get off my mother's property. Now, if you have anything to deliver, it goes through me, her son. Do you understand? The man narrowed his eyes, but seemed to weigh whether confrontation was worth it. Finally, he gave a tight nod. I'll make a note. Good evening. He turned and walked back toward the SUV, leaving the words mentally unfit scattered around my feet like broken glass. Jordan didn't move until the SUV was gone. Only then did he turn to me, eyes blazing. She's dangerous, he whispered. I didn't want to see it before, but now, Mom, she's genuinely dangerous. Tears slipped down my cheeks before I even realized they were there. Why is she doing this? I whispered. Why go this far? Jordan's jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grind. Because she's terrified of losing control. She knows I'm done. She knows her lies are unraveling, and she knows the quickest way to keep me tied to her is through you. He rubbed his forehead like the weight of every mistake he ever made sat behind his eyes. I let her isolate you. I let her make you small. I let her make you feel like a burden. And now she's trying to strip you of your rights because she's scared of losing her lifestyle. I shook my head, voice cracking. Son, you didn't know. She made sure you didn't. That doesn't change the fact that I should have looked harder. I should have paid attention. He led me inside. his hand steady on my back. But the moment we stepped into my dark living room, something felt off. The air didn't feel still. It felt disturbed, like someone had walked through it recently. "Don't move," Jordan whispered. I froze. He scanned the room, eyes narrowing. "Mom, did you leave the back door unlocked?" "No, I never." He walked toward the kitchen, moving quiet and careful. My heartbeat was pounding in my ears. He flicked on the kitchen light and stopped dead. Drawers open, mail scattered, a pill bottle on the counter, open and empty. My breath caught. Jordan, that wasn't like this. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Someone was inside. Then I saw it. A note, sitting in the middle of the table, like it had been placed there deliberately, like it wanted to be seen. Jordan picked it up slowly. His hands shook as he read it. Then he handed it to me. 7 words, written in neat handwriting. "Stop lying, or things get worse for you." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might faint. She was here. I breathed. "Jordan, she was in my house." He exhaled, long and tight, fury rolling off him like heat. "She broke in to intimidate you," he said. "She's escalating." He grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the police." I grabbed his hand. "No, if you call them, she'll twist everything. She'll spin a whole story before they even reach us." Jordan stared at me. "Mom, she's stalking you." "Yes," I whispered, "and she's bold. But calling the police gives her more power right now. She's already trying to paint me unstable." He closed his eyes, torn between rage and reason. "We need a lawyer," I said finally. "Tonight." Jordan nodded slowly. "I know just the one, and she hates bullies." He grabbed his keys. "Get your purse. We're not staying here." "But where will we go?" "Somewhere Clara would never expect. Somewhere she has zero control." "Where?" I asked, heart in my throat. Jordan looked at me with a fierce, determined fire in his eyes. "My penthouse." Jordan drove fast but smooth, one hand gripping the wheel, the other tapping anxiously against his thigh. The city lights streaked across the windshield as we moved farther and farther away from the tiny corner of life where Clara had kept me boxed in. My heart was still racing, my mind replaying that note over and over until the words carved grooves in my thoughts. "Stop lying, or things get worse for you." I shivered, not from fear alone, but from the realization that she was becoming unhinged. Clara had always been controlling, manipulative, calculating, but breaking into my home, leaving threatening notes, filing emergency petitions to strip me of my rights? She was spiraling. Jordan's jaw was clenched so tight it looked painful. "She thinks she can scare you. She thinks you'll fold. She doesn't know you at all." I didn't respond. I was too busy trying to breathe steadily, too busy wondering how the woman I once welcomed into my home with open arms had turned into this. When we entered the underground garage of Jordan's penthouse building, the hum of expensive engines and the smell of polished concrete made my anxiety twist into something strange. I hadn't been here in almost a year. Clara had made sure of that. She said I made her uncomfortable and disrupted their space. I believed her then, believed my presence somehow inconvenienced them. Now I knew she just wanted me far enough away that I wouldn't see the cracks forming in her perfect wife act. Jordan led me to the private elevator, using a thumbprint scan. "Don't worry," he said, noticing the way I hugged myself. "She doesn't have access here. She never will again." The elevator opened to the penthouse, and I stepped inside, stunned by the tall windows overlooking the city, glowing like a constellation of skyscrapers and busy lives. Everything looked expensive, yet warm. Earthy tones, soft couches, large frame photos of Jordan's career milestones. Then I saw it. A dusty photo frame tucked on the bookshelf, a picture of me and Jordan on his high school graduation day. Clara must have hated that particular photo. I didn't know he kept it. Jordan followed my gaze and softened. I never let her throw that away. My throat tightened. He guided me to the guest bedroom, bigger than my entire living room. He said, "You're staying here. You're safe here." I sat on the edge of the bed, the thick comforter swallowing me up. "Jordan, what about the lawyer?" He said, "She's meeting us here. I called her on the way." "Tonight?" I asked, shocked. He nodded. "Tonight." Clara made it urgent. A knock sounded from the penthouse door, sharp and confident. "That's her," Jordan said, walking off. I inhaled deeply, trying to calm my trembling hands. A woman entered the room with Jordan, tall, poised, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my annual income. She extended her hand. "Mrs. Green, I'm attorney Brianna Cooper." she said. Her voice was smooth, but her eyes were sharp. Your son gave me the basics. We're going to shut this down. Her confidence steadied me. Jordan sat beside me while Brianna opened her briefcase. First, Brianna said, I need you to walk me through everything Clara has done, every intimidation attempt, every manipulation, everything you've been denied. I hesitated. Jordan placed a reassuring hand on my back. Tell her, Mom, all of it. So I did. I told her about the blocked calls, the deleted messages, the stolen medical paperwork, the months without heat, the pharmacy visit, and the break-in. By the time she finished, Brianna's expression had hardened into something fierce. This is worse than I expected, she said. She's building a case to portray you as unstable, but her actions show intent to isolate and control. That's abuser behavior. Jordan swallowed. So what do we do? She said, we get ahead of her. Tonight, I'll file for an emergency protective order, request a cease and desist, and file a counter petition stating you want control over your own medical decisions, Mrs. Green. My eyes widened. Can she really be stopped? Oh, yes, Brianna said, and we'll document everything, especially that note. Jordan stood. I took pictures. Good. Brianna scribbled notes. Tomorrow morning, when her petition is reviewed, the judge will already have a counter petition and evidence waiting. That'll flip the narrative. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. Brianna continued. And Mrs. Green, let me make something clear. Women like Clara rely on quiet victims. You are not quiet anymore. I exhaled shakily. Jordan squeezed my hand. We're fighting back now, Mom. A small part of me dared to feel hopeful, but just as Brianna packed up her things, another knock sounded at the penthouse door. Jordan frowned. She shouldn't be here yet. She? I asked. Jordan opened the door, and a trembling voice filled the room. Jordan, the woman said, breathless. I need to talk to you. Please. Jordan froze because standing in the doorway was Clara's younger cousin, Talia, eyes wide, makeup smeared, hands shaking, and the first words out of her mouth made my blood run cold. Jordan, she's planning something worse, and if you don't stop her now, your mother won't be the only one she ruins. Talia stepped into the penthouse like she was afraid the walls might collapse around her. Her breath was shaky, her hands trembling so badly she had to grip the doorframe. She wasn't wearing a coat even though the night outside was cold, and her hair, usually pressed smooth, was frizzed and wild like she'd run here. Jordan moved toward her cautiously. Talia, what happened? Why are you here? She swallowed hard, eyes darting to Brianna, then to me, then back to Jordan. I shouldn't be here. Clara will kill me if she finds out. My stomach tightened. Clara's shadow was thick and heavy even without her presence. Talia, I said gently, sit down, baby. You're shaking. She hesitated, then nodded, collapsing onto the couch like her knees finally gave out. Jordan grabbed her a bottle of water and set it in her hands. She clutched it, knuckles white. I've been trying to reach you, but Clara blocked me from your number too. Jordan stiffened. Of course she did. Talia took a deep, shuddering breath. I need to tell you something Clara's been planning for months. Brianna leaned forward, her expression sharpening. Go on. Talia looked at me, guilt written all over her face. She hates you, she whispered. She hates that Jordan cares about you. She hates that you exist. The words landed like a blow to the chest. She told me once that you were the one thing standing between her and the life she deserves. I didn't know what she meant at first, but now. Jordan clenched his fists. Talia, what is she planning? Talia closed her eyes like she was trying to gather courage. She's building a case. A fake one. She's been collecting things. Doctor notes she forged, screenshots she manipulated, medical documents with your signature copied. Brianna's eyes widened. She forged medical records? Talia nodded. And more. She dug through your garbage, Mrs. Green, looking for anything she could twist. She even took pictures of your house when it was cold last year so she could say you were living in unsafe conditions due to mental decline. I felt sick. Jordan swore under his breath. She's evil. That's not the worst part, Talia whispered. She's been keeping a journal, a fake one, written like you wrote it, saying you're confused, forgetful, paranoid. My blood turned to ice. A forged journal? Brianna repeated. Incredulous. That's premeditated fraud, Talia nodded. I saw it. I read it. And when I confronted her, she said I didn't know who I was dealing with. Jordan stared at her, jaw hard. Why are you telling us now? Talia broke into a sob. Because she scared me tonight. She said she was going to finish the job before the hearing, that she was going to make sure Mrs. Green doesn't get a chance to speak. I don't know what that means, but it sounded violent. Jordan shot to his feet. I'm calling security. She's not getting near this building. But wait, Brianna said sharply. Let's think clearly. No, Jordan snapped. She broke into my mother's house. She forged documents. She's filing false petitions. And now we're talking threats? No, she doesn't get near my mother ever again. Talia spoke again, voice trembling. There's more. She has someone helping her. Jordan froze. Helping her? Talia nodded. A man, someone she pays. I don't know his name, but I've seen him twice. He drops off envelopes. And tonight she told him, we move tomorrow. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. Move? Move what? Talia pressed her hands to her face. I think she means the evidence, the forged documents. Or she broke off, shaking more violently. Or she means doing something to you before you can testify. Jordan's face darkened into something I'd never seen on him. Pure, controlled fury. She's not touching my mother. I will burn every bridge I have to protect her. Brianna stood. We need immediate legal action tonight. I'm filing emergency motions. And Jordan, you need to call your building security and have Clara banned indefinitely. Jordan nodded and pulled out his phone. Talia's voice dropped to a whisper. I left Clara. I walked out with nothing. She's going to know I told you. You can stay here tonight, Jordan said. You're not going back to her. But even as he said it, the penthouse intercom buzzed. Jordan stiffened. Brianna stiffened. I stopped breathing. A cold voice crackled through the speaker. Jordan, it's Clara. I know you're home. My heart dropped. Talia gasped. Jordan's eyes went dark. She's not supposed to be able to get in, he whispered. The intercom buzzed again, this time more loudly, more sharply, almost angrily. Jordan, open the door. We need to talk. Brianna stepped forward. Do not answer that door. But the intercom buzzed again, this time accompanied by a long, dragging scrape across the metal of the door, like someone was dragging a key or a weapon. And Clara's voice came through one more time, soft, eerie, chilling. Jordan, I know she's in there. The scrape against the door continued, slow, metallic, deliberate. Talia flinched with every sound, curling into herself on the couch. Brianna moved closer to me, her voice low and controlled. Do not speak. Do not move. Jordan stormed toward the security panel. His fingers flew across the screen as he pulled up the camera feed. Clara stood outside the penthouse door. Her hair was perfectly styled, makeup immaculate, but her eyes were wild, too wide, too bright, too angry. She wasn't alone either. A tall man in a dark jacket stood a step behind her, hands in his pockets, face turned away from the camera. That's him, Talia whispered. That's the man who brings her envelopes. Jordan's jaw tightened. Not on my property. Brianna glanced at the screen. We need security now. Jordan switched to the emergency channel. Security, this is Jordan Green in PH1. Clara Green is at my door with an unknown man. She is not authorized. I need immediate removal. Copy that, sir. Officers are on their way. But Clara didn't wait. She leaned into the camera, smiling too calmly. Jordan, why involve strangers and family issues? That's so unlike you. Jordan turned pale. She knew I'd see that. Brianna grabbed his arm. Step away from the door, now. Clara knocked 3 gentle taps, then another, harder. Then she dragged her nails down the door, the sound sharp enough to make Talia gasp. Jordan, Clara purred. Your little assistant is missing. Did you know that? I thought she might be here. Talia let out a strangled cry and covered her mouth. Clara smiled wider at the sound through the door. She heard it. She knew. The man beside her leaned closer to the door and spoke for the first time, his voice deep and unsettling. "Open up. We just want to talk." "No," Brianna hissed. "Stay back." Security finally appeared on the hallway camera. A team of 3 men, moving quickly, hands on their belts. Clara noticed them too. Her smile dropped instantly. She whispered something to the man beside her. He nodded. Then, bang. A loud bang hit the door. Not a knock, a shove. Talia screamed. Jordan jumped. Brianna shoved me behind her. Clara slammed the door again, harder, like she was trying to force it open before security reached her. "Let me in," she shrieked, all pretense gone. "She doesn't get to take you from me. She doesn't get to keep your money." Security grabbed her arms before she could finish. The hallway exploded into shouting. "Ma'am, step back." "Release her!" "Sir, you need to move away from the door." The man with Clara tried to shove one of the guards, but they tackled him fast. Clara screamed, kicked, clawed, her voice turning feral. "You can't keep me out. She's manipulating you. She's the problem. She's always been the problem." Her shrieks echoed even after security dragged her down the hallway, her voice fading but not disappearing. When the feed finally went quiet, no one in the penthouse spoke for several seconds. The silence was thick, heavy, raw. Then Jordan exhaled shakily. "She's lost it. She's completely lost it." Brianna placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is good. This will help us legally." Every second of that was recorded, but I couldn't shake the chill in my bones. Clara had looked right at the camera, right into the penthouse, right where she knew I was. And before security dragged her away, she'd shouted one last thing, words that echoed through my skull long after the screen went dark. "This isn't over. None of you know what I've planned." Talia burst into sobs. Jordan pulled her close with one arm and reached for me with the other. And all I could think was, if this wasn't the end of her plan, then what was coming next? The penthouse felt too quiet after security dragged Clara away. Not peaceful, just suspended. Like the air hadn't decided whether to settle or explode again. Jordan paced the living room, hands in his hair, muttering under his breath. Talia sat curled on the couch, knees pulled to her chest. Brianna stood by the window, scanning every movement outside the building like she expected Clara to reappear out of thin air. I stood there, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, and something deeper, something older, the familiar ache of a mother watching her child crumble under a burden he never should have carried. Jordan finally stopped pacing and turned to me. "Mom, she planned this. She planned all of it. For years." I nodded slowly. "She didn't change overnight." But he wasn't hearing reassurance. He was unraveling the truth piece by painful piece. "She screened my calls. She deleted your messages. She told me you were sick. She told you I was too busy. And the worst part," his voice cracked, "I believed her." Brianna crossed the room and placed her hand on his shoulder. "That's what manipulators do. They build a world and convince you it's the only one that exists." Talia wiped her nose with the sleeve of her sweater. "Clara said you were overwhelmed, that you need a space, that talking to you would make you worse." Jordan flinched like he'd been struck. "That's exactly how she talked to me about my mother," he whispered. "She said you didn't want to burden me with your problems, that you were happier without constant contact." My heart twisted. "Son, I never stopped wanting you." He looked away quickly, eyes glossy. Before he could respond, Brianna's phone buzzed. She checked the screen, her face tensed instantly. "It's security. They want to update us." Jordan swallowed hard. "Put it on speaker." A stern, professional voice filled the room. "Mr. Green, we have detained Clara Green and the male suspect. We're processing them now." "Good," Jordan said. "Has she been removed from the property?" A pause. "Not yet, sir." Brianna's eyes narrowed. "Why not?" "Because she requested to file a report." Talia gasped. "A report? On who?" The officer continued. voice thin with discomfort. She claims someone inside your residence threatened her life. Jordan's jaw dropped. Are you serious? She tried to break into my home. We are reviewing footage now, sir, but she is very insistent. She has requested to speak to a lawyer. Talia whimpered into her hands. She's turning it around. She's flipping everything on us. I felt my stomach sink. Of course she was. Clara didn't attack. It was always retaliation. She didn't manipulate. She was protecting him. She didn't commit fraud. Someone else misunderstood. She lived in a world where she was never the villain. Jordan clenched his fists. I want her removed. Permanently tonight. Understood, sir. But there's one more thing. The room went still. What? Jordan asked. We found something in the man's jacket. Something we think you should see. Brianna stepped closer. What did he have? A long silence. Then the officer replied. Financial documents. Copies of your mother's bank statements. Your payroll logs. And a draft of a medical authorization form with forged signatures. My breath caught in my throat. Jordan staggered backward. What was she planning? It appears that your wife may have been preparing to gain medical decision-making access over your mother. A cold tremor ran through my entire body. Medical access. That meant choices about treatment, about medication, about end-of-life decisions. Brianna rushed to me, gripping my arm. She wanted control, total control. And if she got it, Jordan whispered, she could have put you anywhere she wanted, done anything she wanted. Talia looked between us, eyes wide with horror. Like a facility? The word hung in the air like poison. Jordan sank on the couch, staring at the floor, as if the ground itself had betrayed him. I thought she was protecting me, protecting us, but she was building a way to erase you completely. My heart fractured, not because of her plan, not because of the danger, but because of the look on my son's face, pure, devastated guilt. I sat beside him and took his hand. Jordan, I said gently, your heart is too kind. That's not your fault. He swallowed hard. Mom, I almost lost you. No, I whispered, squeezing his hand. You found me just in time. But even as I spoke the words, I knew something. This wasn't over. Clara wasn't done. Not by a long shot. And whatever she had already set in motion, we were only scraping the surface.
Security escorted us downstairs to a private room. One of those sleek, corporate-looking spaces with a long glass table and cold white lights that make everyone look like they haven't slept in a week. Jordan walked ahead of me, stiff with purpose, while I followed slowly, every step heavy with dread. Brianna and Talia stayed close, almost like a protective formation. When we stepped into the room, the officer from earlier laid a folder on the table, thick, overstuffed. Too many papers for this to be anything small. This is everything we recovered from the male suspect, he said. He claimed he was just a friend, but our preliminary search suggests otherwise. Jordan opened the folder like he expected it to bite him, and then it did. Right there, right on top, was a printed copy of my medical records. Not the public charts, not the routine checkup pages, the private notes from when I was hospitalized 2 years ago. Notes that weren't supposed to be in the hands of anyone outside my doctor's office. Jordan sucked in a sharp breath. How did she even get these? The officer shook his head. We're still investigating. But that's not all. He slid a second document forward. A long, typed application form. My eyes scanned the top line before my brain fully registered it. Application for long-term care transfer. My blood ran cold. Jordan, I whispered, my voice barely a thread. This is a nursing home form. He slammed his hand on the table. Why would she have this? The officer kept his voice even. The form wasn't completed yet, but her name was listed as the primary decision maker. She would have needed forged signatures to finalize it. I couldn't breathe. She was planning to hide me away, not just control me, erase me, tuck me into a corner of the world where no one would hear me call out. Brianna burst into tears. She wanted your mom gone so she could control you. Jordan leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling like he was fighting off a scream. Where is she now? he asked. In holding, he replied. She's refusing to speak without a lawyer. Jordan nodded stiffly. Keep her there. Don't release her under any circumstances. I stepped closer to him and reached for his shoulder. Baby, you can't let this swallow you. He lowered his gaze to me. Mom, he said softly, I trusted that woman with my whole life, my home, my business, my peace, and she took advantage of every inch of that trust. His voice broke, and I didn't even see it. I cupped his cheek. Your heart isn't a flaw. It's the reason you're a good man. And when good people meet the wrong ones, it's not their fault. He closed his eyes, letting the words settle. But the officer wasn't finished. There's one more thing. He handed Jordan a flash drive. We found this in her purse. Surveillance footage clips, emails, password logs, all connected to your business accounts. Jordan's head snapped up. She had access to my business? We believe she's been monitoring your financial activity for months. Brianna stepped forward, monitoring or manipulating. The officer didn't answer, because silence was the answer. Jordan pressed his palms into the table. If she touched my company? The officer raised a hand. We don't know the full extent yet, but the digital forensics team is already working on it. I felt a chill sweep up the back of my neck. This woman hadn't married my son for love. She married him for access, for wealth, for control. And the moment I threatened that grip, even unknowingly, she tried to remove me like an obstacle. Jordan looked at the flash drive, his jaw tightening. Run everything. I don't care what it costs. The officer nodded, and as he stepped out to make the call, I turned to Jordan. You're not fighting this alone, I said quietly. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. He tried to smile, but grief, betrayal, and rage all blurred together in his eyes. Brianna squeezed his arm. When she touched your mother, she crossed a line she can't come back from. Talia sniffled. But what if she still tries something? That question lingered too long, because the answer wasn't simple. And just when I thought the night had exhausted every shock it could offer, the door swung open hard. The officer rushed back inside, breath short, expression grim. Mr. Green, there's a problem. Jordan stiffened. What now? The officer cleared his throat and delivered the blow. Clara's lawyer just sent over a notice. She's filed a temporary restraining order against your mother. My heart dropped. What? Jordan choked. She's claiming your mother is a danger to her and to your household. He paused, and the judge approved the emergency order.
For a moment, no one spoke. Not even the officer. Not even Jordan. It was like the air itself froze after those impossible words. The judge approved the emergency order against me. A restraining order filed by the woman who tried to put me in a nursing home. A nursing home she picked out like it was a storage unit for inconvenient people. Jordan's whole face twisted in disbelief. You're telling me the court granted a TRO against my mother? My mother? The officer nodded grimly. Emergency orders are often granted first, reviewed later. She claimed she feared for her safety. I actually laughed. An ugly, broken sound, because the alternative was collapsing on the floor. Feared me? I murmured. After she broke into our home? After she forged signatures? After she tried to isolate my son? Brianna slammed her hand on the table. She lied. She lied, and the system let her. Talia wiped tears with her sleeve. She must have filed the moment she was taken downstairs. She planned it. Jordan paced in a tight circle, chest rising and falling too fast. This is a tactic, a power move. She wants to paint herself as the victim before the truth surfaces. The officer placed a small stack of papers on the table. This is the order, effective immediately. I reached out and touched the papers with trembling fingers. My name, printed in the bold black timeline of legal accusations, a list of false claims. That I yelled threats at her, that I charged at her, that I tried to hit her, that my presence caused her extreme emotional distress. Lies. Every single one. Jordan stared at the papers, horror creeping deeper into his expression. He's trying to flip the story. She wants you to look unstable. I swallowed hard, because if I look unstable, then she can justify everything she did. Brianna nodded slowly. This is about optics. She's building a narrative so when the fraud comes out, she can say she acted out of concern. And if the nursing home plan ever reached court, she could argue she did it to protect you. The realization hit me like a cold wave. Clara didn't want me out of Jordan's life. She wanted legal control over the story of me, control over how the world saw me, even how my own son saw me. But she miscalculated. I was not some fragile, confused old woman. I stood straighter. Jordan, what does this mean for us? He dragged a hand down his face. It means she wants to weaponize the system, and she thinks she can do it because she's been studying me, my accounts, my business, my habits. She knows how to play this in public. The officer cleared his throat. There's more. My stomach clenched. What now? He hesitated. Her lawyer is pushing for a hearing within 72 hours. She wants the restraining order made permanent. Jordan shouted, "On what basis?" The officer met his eyes. "On the basis that she claims your mother is a threat to your well-being because of your fragile mental state during business stress." Brianna's face went pale. "She's saying you're unstable?" "Yes," the officer said. "She's implying your mother is influencing you negatively, that she's harmful to your recovery." I couldn't speak. She was building a legal wall between me and my child, brick by brick, lie by lie. Jordan punched the wall so hard, Talia screamed, "She's trying to take everything! My mother, my home, my reputation, my business." He turned to me, eyes wild with grief. "Mom, I promise you I won't let her do this. I won't let her destroy what we have." I took his hands gently, grounding him. "We will fight her together." The officer stepped forward again. "There's a small complication." Jordan let out a broken laugh. "Of course there is. The restraining order includes your penthouse." I blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," the officer said carefully, "that legally you cannot stay here tonight." My knees nearly buckled. Talia gasped. "She got her removed from her own son's home?" Jordan shouted, "That is my decision, not hers." But decisions didn't matter in the face of a stamped legal order. I felt a deep, aching tremble rise inside me. Where am I supposed to go? Jordan grabbed my hand. "With me. Wherever I go, you go. You're not leaving my side." Brianna firmly nodded. "She won't win this, not for 1 second. The officer looked at me sympathetically. "We can escort you out privately so she cannot claim any further contact." I took a breath, slow, steady, determined. I walked myself in. I can walk myself out. Jordan helped me gather my coat and bag, his movements sharp with protective fury. But just as we reached the back exit, the officer's radio crackled. A voice came through. "Update on Clara Green. She's demanding to speak with Mr. Green personally. Claims she has something urgent he needs to hear." Jordan froze. Brianna swore under her breath. Talia whispered, "What now?" I felt a cold dread settle in my bones. The officer's radio crackled again, louder this time. "She says she wants to talk before she releases the final document." Another pause. Then, "She says it involves her mother." Jordan's grip tightened around my hand. "What document?" he whispered. The officer swallowed. "We don't know yet, but I knew this. Clara wasn't finished, not even close." I didn't want Jordan anywhere near Clara, not after everything she'd already done, not after the forged documents, the restraining order, the nursing home application, every knife she twisted behind his back. But when the officer insisted she had a final document, something tightened in my chest. Clara didn't bluff, not when it came to control. Jordan squared his shoulders. "I'll talk to her, but my mother stays out of this room. She doesn't get anywhere near her." I touched his arm. "Be careful, baby." He nodded, jaw tight, eyes burning with a mix of anger and heartbreak I wish I could wipe away with a single touch. The officer led him into a small glass conference room. Brianna, Talia, and I stood outside, watching through the transparent wall like it was a stage play we could see but not change. Clara sat on the opposite side of the table, still handcuffed, still in that expensive silk blouse she'd worn like armor. She looked nothing like a wife who'd been caught in fraud and manipulation. She looked like a woman preparing her last move. Jordan entered, and Clara's lips curled into a shaky smile. Not remorse, not sorrow, something colder. "Jordan," she breathed, her eyes watering instantly. "Thank God. I've been waiting to explain." He didn't sit. "Show me the document." Her smile trembled. "You're angry. I understand, but baby, everything I did, everything was to protect our life. You get overwhelmed, you get stressed, and things spiral. I was just trying to keep us safe." "Document," Jordan repeated, voice flattened to stone. Clara exhaled, nodding slowly. She slid a folded set of papers across the table. Even through the glass, I saw the bold black header, "Revocation of Beneficiary Status." My stomach clenched. Jordan picked it up, scanning line after line, frowning deeper each second. Then he whispered, You removed my mother?" Clara opened her palms. "Please listen. Your mother is a wonderful woman, but she's fragile. Her health isn't stable. If something happened to you, she couldn't handle—" "Stop!" Jordan snapped the word like a whip. "You forged this. You forged every signature, didn't you?" Clara's tears came fast. Too fast. "I did what any wife would do. I protected our home." "That is my mother," he growled. "My mother. And she's draining you emotionally." Clara shot back, her mask cracking. "You can't see it, Jordan. You think you need her, but she's the one keeping you from greatness. Your mother is a weight you carry out of guilt." My heart cracked clean down the center. Brianna whispered, "She said that out loud. She really said that." Jordan's face shifted, anger melting into something sharp, heartbreaking, final. "You know, I thought today would be the worst day of my life, but now I see it clearly." He leaned forward, palms on the table. You never loved me." Clara gasped. "Jordan, you loved control. You loved what I could give you, and when my mother stood in the way of that, you tried to cut her out." He slid the forged beneficiary document back across the table. "You and I," he said slowly, "are done." Clara lunged forward, hands still cuffed, desperation overtaking her voice. "Jordan, listen to me. If you walk away now, everything falls apart for me. Everything. I'll lose the condo, the car, the card access." Jordan looked her dead in the eyes. "None of that ever belonged to you." The officer stepped in, gently pulling Jordan back. Clara cried out, screaming his name, not out of love, but out of losing the empire she tried to build from his bones. He stepped out into the hallway, and the moment he did, I wrapped him in my arms. He didn't break. He didn't fall apart. He exhaled. A long, shaking exhale that sounded like a man finally coming up for air after nearly drowning. He held me tight. "Mom, I'm so sorry for it all." I cupped the back of his head. "You found your way back. That's what matters." Brianna pressed her hand to his back. "We're going home. Together." "Not the penthouse," Jordan said quietly. "Not yet. I'm selling it. I'm starting over. Somewhere peaceful." Talia smiled through tears. "A reset." "Yes, a reset." Hours later, as dawn softened the sky, we sat together on Brianna's porch with blankets over our laps. The air was cool, gentle, peaceful. A world away from the chaos of last night. "I'm buying you a home," Jordan said, staring at the horizon. I shook my head. "Baby, no. Listen to me. A real home. One with light, one with space, one where nobody decides who you can call or what you can afford or what treatment you get. You're going to live the way you deserve." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "And you? What about your heart?" He finally smiled. An honest, tired, hopeful smile. "I'm taking it back." We sat there for a long time, the sun slowly rising, warming our faces. A new day, a new start, not perfect, not easy, but ours. Clara's attempts to control the narrative didn't matter anymore because Jordan had chosen his truth, his family, his freedom, and me. If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I'd truly love to know.